this story right here. So, oh man, let me get my shit together. Hi guys, today we're going to sit down and I'm going to share with you my very first ghost spirit entity experience. So I'm actually traveling back in time because I recently just did my very first storytime video on this channel about my ghost experience in this house right now. So definitely go check it out because I made some references to this particular story. But we'll talk about everything. I know it's probably going to confuse you if you watch that first video and you go through this entire video and you wonder, how do you still not believe? We'll talk about all that in the end, okay? So in this video, I am going to tell you guys the story experience that I had in a house about 14 years ago. My daughter was 4 years old, I believe. I want to say that if you're wondering, do I think it's the same ghost in this house from that house? Did it kind of come with me? I do not feel that whatsoever because I've only ever had this experience in that house and in this house. I've never had that experience in between. And I've lived in a lot of places in between, you guys. So never ever had any sort of feeling or experience other than the 14-year ago house and this house. So I do not think it's the same spirit whatsoever, not only because of the gap in between, but because the feeling is completely different. And I might have a bad memory, but I'm telling you, I'll never forget how I felt in this house 14 years ago. Completely different than this situation. So I do have a notebook and a pen because I'm going to draw out the layout of this house because I don't have any pictures, and even if I did, I'd throw them all away. This, again, is not meant to scare anybody, so if you feel like this is not something you want to know about, click out, don't watch this. I am kind of that mind. I absolutely refuse to watch scary movies. I don't want to scare myself, and why would I torture myself that way? That's just my own personality. But I know there are a lot of people who really enjoy this kind of stuff and find it really interesting. So this is most likely for those of you who are interested in that. But again, this intent isn't to make this scary. It's just to tell you guys what I went through. Now, my daughter was really young. So I don't really feel like she had much of an experience. But my daughter also has a crazy ass memory. So I think halfway through this, I'm going to text her and ask her if she remembers anything and get her take. But otherwise, let's go ahead and dive in to the situation. So I moved into this house. I was renting it from this elderly lady. And from the very beginning, you guys, it didn't feel right. I couldn't quite place my hand on it, like when I was walking through the house before I signed the lease. I just was kind of like, oh, my first impression was, this feels a little dark in here. And there were ample windows, but for whatever reason, but I was also young, so I thought nothing of it. And it was really my first big house, and I was really excited about it because I had been living in apartments because I was a brand new mom. She was 4 years old. And the upstairs had 3 bedrooms. My master bedroom, and then 2 bedrooms across the hall. And these right here are stairs that led up to the 2nd floor, and this is the master bedroom. So this was the bedroom area, and then this was the bathroom. So this round part is just kind of the tub, this little blocked out part was the closet, and then this square was the shower, and all of this is going to come into play. So I drew things that I could... Oh, the story, I can't. All right, and then the other side, so once you got up the stairs, you either had to go directly into my bedroom because the door was right there at the top of the stairs, or there was like a little hallway. There was a room right across. So like I could be standing in my doorway and I could look straight into this room right here. And then there was a room if you went down the hall, and this is the problem. So this is the closet, and then I drew this as like a bay window. Yeah, so again, I'm just drawing things that I'm going to point out to you in a little bit. So just so that you guys can have a general idea. So I basically gave this half of the house to my daughter, and this was my bedroom. And I was really excited again, and this room had the bay window. And I just was like, oh my gosh, it just gave me full house vibes. I always loved DJ and Stephanie's bedroom, and I loved that there was a bay window. So I picked that room as my daughter's room, and I picked this room as her playroom. I have chills right now. The first thing that I noticed when I was moving my daughter into this room and putting her things in the closet was when I opened up this closet door, you guys, I just felt like something was really bad. That's the only way I can explain it to you guys. I didn't have any sort of premonition. I didn't like see something. It was just this, oh my God, this is bad. And it was strong. I can feel it till this day. I remember this feeling. This closet just, okay. And I ignored it because I was young, and you know, I was young and I was like, I don't know, you know, I was just kind of like, maybe I just didn't like the closet. But every time I went back to this closet, I felt worse and worse and almost like queasy. And then little things started happening, little things that were really scary to me. I would be in the house and I would turn a light off and I'd go back and the light would be on. And I remember I would get to a point where I would tell myself, you're turning this off, you're turning this off. I remember, and it would happen too, it wouldn't happen all the time when I was in the house. It happened only a couple times. I didn't live there for very long. I broke my lease and I got the hell out, just so that you know. But I remember my very first light experience, I wasn't actually in the house. My very first situation, so I'm sorry I'm telling you this, guys, in the wrong order. I left the house one day and I came home and I pulled up to the house, lights on. And I remember thinking, can I turn on any lights? And it happened again. And I was like, well, that's odd. Like, the odds of that happening again, me leaving and coming back and the lights are on. So I got to that point where I would tell myself, I'm turning the lights off, I'm turning the lights off. And when I would come home again and the lights would be on, that freaked me out. And it was always the upstairs. It was never the downstairs. And to me, it didn't seem like an electrical issue because it didn't happen all the time. And it was just kind of intermittent, I guess. It just seemed a little too random for the light switch to just have a problem. And I even called the landlord. I remember calling her and being like, did you come into the house by any chance? And I really wanted to just believe that someone was a human being that was alive was turning the lights on. Even though I know legally she can't be in the house without telling me, I still wanted to check because, you know, just to kind of ease my mind. And she was just like, no, not in the house. But of course she could have been lying. And it just didn't make sense either for her to, you know when I was going to leave and know when I was going to come back. And, you know, it just didn't seem like that was the case. So then as I kept going into the closet, my daughter's closet, I just felt worse and worse and worse, to the point where I started mentioning something to this guy that I was dating at the time, okay? And his dad was really involved in their church and was really good friends with the pastor and everything. And I started mentioning this to his dad, and his dad was like, don't ignore your feelings, and we really need to come in and sage and bless the house and holy water. And I was just like, I was like, it's okay. I just felt like I always go back on myself and think you're just being dramatic. Like, I never think that, I never give myself enough credit, basically, okay? So I was just like, no, not yet kind of thing, I just thought it was all in my head. And not just the closet, by the way, but again, the whole upstairs really made me feel like the darkness. Even the downstairs had that dark effect, but I'm just telling you that this closet produced the most physical reaction from me. And there was a time when I opened up the closet and I remember like grabbing for the wall to kind of support myself, because I'm sorry that I don't know how to convey this or describe to you, but it was the last time, I'll tell you that, and I'll tell you what happened after. But I remember thinking to myself, I wanted to throw up. And I was just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this just doesn't make sense to me. And I couldn't sleep in my own room. Like, I never slept well in this house at all. Even though my daughter was in the same floor, she was still down the hall. And I started to, after that wanting to vomit situation, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna move her. I'm gonna switch rooms. So that's exactly what I did. I took her bedroom, bed stuff, and I moved her to this room, and then I moved her play stuff to that room. And even then, after that, I still did not feel good about the whole thing. So I started moving all of the stuff that she played with the most, and I put it in her room. And I positioned her bed just so that I could see straight at her. And I made sure like her doors were open, my doors were open when we slept at night, and really never let her kind of go back into this room. I don't know if I could tell you guys if I kind of felt like something was looking at me. I don't remember that. Like I kind of have felt in this house a little bit. It just almost seemed like it was hovering over the whole house, almost like a fog, a blanket, rather than a silhouette of a human, just being next to me, if that makes sense. It just felt it felt bigger than a ghost. I don't know. So I moved her, and I also felt like my closet was a little, no, that's not the closet, that's the bay window. I felt like my closet was not that bad, but again, the whole house was just a dark thing to me. So one night, I'm in my bed, right here. I don't know what I was doing, but I was in my bed. And the shower turns on. Full on turns on. Yeah. That sounds nuts, right? And that, again, you're probably going, how do you not believe in ghosts? I told you, I felt like you guys are probably going to question that. Anyway, so the shower straight up turns on, and I wasn't alone. And so I called out, and then the guy I was dating was like in the house somewhere. And I was like, did you hear that? And he was like, did you just turn the shower on? And I was like, no. And I didn't want to move. I was not moving from my bed. And I couldn't see directly into the bathroom because there was like a wall. And he comes in there, and I was like, go in there. He goes in there, and I come up like behind him, and that shower is on. Okay, it wasn't dripping, it was like crank, on. And the craziest part is we had to turn the knob to turn it off, which would suggest that when it turned on, the knob had to have turned. How are you feeling? Are you okay? So right after that, he told me, he was like, we're calling my dad, like immediately, because he knew how I had felt. And I think he like had gone into the attic and he had some experience. I'm sorry, like I just don't remember. I try to block this out as much as possible. The only reason why I remember my feelings is because they were so strong. I don't think I'll ever forget them. And so his dad, I think like the next day or a couple days later, his dad brings over his pastor friend, and they kind of had the same consensus as I did, not as strong as me, but they were like, okay, yeah, kind of thing. And I walked around with them. The pastor was, I don't think we did sage, I don't remember, but it was definitely holy water. He walked around, he had his Bible, and he was, blessing the house and telling the spirit, just like you all had some of you had suggested in the video, just tell it it's not welcome, get out, kind of thing. And as he was doing this, I just remember thinking to myself, this is serious. I've never gone through anything like this. When I was growing up, I grew up in the same house when I was 7 until I was 18, so 11 years, never had anything like that happen in our house. And when I moved out and went to my own apartments, like that was never a thing for me. So, I was traumatized as a child with horror movies, so I never touched that stuff. I never watched it. I never wanted to scare myself. So it wasn't like these things kind of came out and about because I had my mind was on scary things. And I just remember thinking that my daughter wasn't safe. I never really thought much about myself, but I remember thinking my daughter isn't safe in this situation. And he went through the whole house and did that whole thing. And in the meantime, by the way, the lights thing still happening every now and then. I'd come home, the top light would be on. It was almost like that thing was telling me, hey, how are ya? Here I am, welcome back. And I wasn't messing with that. Like I wanted no part of that. And I had to get out. I had to leave. And that's a hard thing to do when you're really young. And I was living above my means because I was so young and all I wanted was for my daughter to have a house and not an apartment. And there's nothing wrong with an apartment. I soon learned after that, she could be just as happy there than in a house. And it was a hard thing for me to have broken that lease. And the old lady was not really happy. She was pissed. And I told her, I was like, things are happening in here. I was like, has anyone else said anything to you? And she just was of mine, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was just like, my daughter and I cannot be living here. So I just texted my daughter to kind of get her account. And again, she's always had a super memory, just insane. And usually when she'll tell me like one of her memories, it'll spark mine and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I just texted her and the first thing out of her mouth was, yeah, I remember that house. My stuffed animals used to move around. Yeah, I remember that. That is where the bay window comes in because she had lined up all of her stuffed animals on this window. Oh, I get chills every time I go back to this room. and her little toys started like moving around, and I remember some of them would like be turned the opposite way. All the, you know, it's crazy because it sounds like something that could be turned into a movie, but I don't want my life to be some sort of movie. I didn't want this to happen, but like this is just nuts. And I remember some of them would like be turned, and it was just really bizarre. The other thing that she said she had a memory of that I didn't, she said the lights would go out a couple of times. She was like, I don't know if that was just like storms, she's like, or if it was like the ghost thing. She goes, but I remember the lights going out. When she said that, I had not really a full memory, but like a spark of maybe I remember that happening. I more so remember the lights being on when I would pull up to the house. And okay. The other thing she says, something about her pink toy bin. Oh, I remember that toy bin. It was like one of those giant plastic like toy chests. But she goes, I just remember there being something about that. She's like, I just don't remember what it was, and I don't either, so I'm sorry that I don't have anything to give you. When she comes home, I'll kind of talk about it again, see if it sparks any memory, and I'll add the text. If not, something with her toy bin. But otherwise, that was her count, and yeah, I completely forgot about the stuffed animals thing. It's crazy. So there were just little things, and I know I'm missing even more stuff to tell you guys. Again, just goes back to just my bad memory, and it goes back to me wanting to block this out. But we didn't stay there for very long, like I said. The shower thing prompted the blessing, and I just don't know necessarily that had worked, because I remember thinking I can't live here, and we left. So that happened, and that's basically it for this story time video. So now I'm gonna just kind of talk about how I feel about it now and what I think, and do I think it was real. When it comes to that house, I feel like whatever was happening was real. I couldn't see it, but it was real. There was just too many things producing too mmany bad memories, things that weren't just happening to me, but happening to my daughter too. And when she has a memory of it, you know, of course, could be a little kid remembering mommy and daddy being upset about something, you know. So I can't say 100%, you know, that she had any sort of feeling. She's too young to probably even remember that alone. But I do feel like that whatever it was not good. It was not nice. It was not happy. And it did not want me to be there. The shower thing was one of the scariest things that had ever happened, because really, like I mentioned in my last story time, you always think, well, there could be an excuse for this. There could be an excuse for this. You know, the shower, when we had to turn the knob to turn it off, and not one of us was in that bathroom, it was a kind of shower where it was separate. It was separate from the tub. I remember because I gave my daughter her baths in the tub, but I took a shower because I'm not a bath person. And so the shower had like a door. So you had to open the door to get in it, close the door. Didn't hear the door, just heard the shower turn on. And so yeah, that's it. That's my experience. This house was old, whereas this house really isn't that old. Compared to the one that I was living in, it was probably had been around since the 60s, 70s, most likely the 70s, maybe even a little older. I'm not entirely sure. This is an honest guesstimate on my part. Before I started filming this, I had considered driving by the house and doing a clip, but that's how much I decided against it, because that's how much I can't. I don't even want to be in the same vicinity. No. And I do remember it was in a cul-de-sac, because when I would take my daughter outside to ride a little bicycle, I remember us being in a cul-de-sac. So who knows, you guys? Who knows? You could go back in there and somebody could be living just a fine life and have absolutely no issues, and it could just date back, it could just come back to, I don't know, but at the same time that the guy I was dating was involved, his dad, the pastor, so I know when it comes to that, it wasn't just in my head, and the shower thing really confirmed it. And there would be times where he would leave with me and we'd come back and I'm like, you see that light on? You know we didn't leave that on, because I would tell him. And so, you know, in that instance, there was another witness besides my child. You know, in this house, my daughter is older, so she now counts as an adult kind of witness to things. But I do not think it's the same at all, equivalent to the feeling. And I don't think that it followed me, because for 14 years in between that house and this house, nothing happened. I don't personally understand that. I would think that you would continue to feel things if it moved with you. Yeah. So anyways, that's it, you guys. I'm also very Christian, and I have God in my heart, and I have my relationship with him, very, very strong relationship. And so for me, I guess that's why it makes it just hard for me to want to say, yeah, I believe in this stuff, because at the end of the day, like, I know he has my back, and he has my back, and nothing has happened to me in the 2 years in this house. You know, nothing physical other than me being twisted in an odd way. Again, go watch that video. But nothing harmful. So I don't know. I guess that's why in the back of my mind, I'd rather believe that it's not real. So anyway, but that's my experience. That's my ghost. I don't even know what I'm titling this video. I just know that that's the end of my ghost. I have story times. Like, I have no other ones to give you guys. Like, that has been my experience. And comment down below. Let me know your experiences. I was reading some of the comments from the last video, and what you guys had your own stories. So that was really interesting. I liked reading those. But that's it for my ghost stuff. I do want to do more, not story times, but I also want to do other videos where I kind of start talking about Kendall Ray's channel. I really love her. She does like conspiracy and where is and crime videos, and I love her channel. And I thought that it might be fun if like once a week I talked about a couple of her videos and like my thoughts on it. So thumbs up if you want something like that. I just find her channel to be super intriguing. And there have been times where she like hasn't mentioned something or has mentioned something that like I want to add on to, and I thought that would be like great for me to you know, kind of like talk it out with you guys. So let me know your thoughts if you want something like that, just like one day a week on this channel. Don't know what I'm going to call the series yet, but something I'm thinking about. That's it for this story time. It was a long one. Thank you for sticking it out with me and for watching this whole video through. Hopefully it didn't lag, and because sometimes I can take a while to get around to telling my story, and I'm sorry about that. I know that can be annoying, but that's my story, and I'm gonna go burn this now. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Otherwise, like, I have to tell you that even going through this story, I don't feel like it's anywhere near me, and it's not gonna ruin my day, and I'm gonna move on. But yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.